Perfect. Thank you very much. My name is Bjorn Hertzberg. I come from NASDAQ. Officially, my role is the European head of, I'm the chief economist in Europe. That means that I head up a team of, officially we're economists. It's more a group of data scientists. We have analytics, advanced analytics, data science, and developers in the team. And currently, we're working on a re-platforming of the data platform that we use. In parallel, we also have a bigger project within NASDAQ that we call the NASDAQ Financial Framework. And we're one of the parties into this bigger project. In the NASDAQ Financial Framework, we're creating a new data platform. And I want to tell you a little bit about the process that we have, both from a what we call GTMS perspective, so the exchanges, and also the software provider side of the company. So just some background. NASDAQ is not a huge company. We're 5,000 employees globally. We head up a number of exchanges worldwide, including the US NASDAQ, but also some other exchanges that you might not know that we actually operate. So Philadelphia and a few others. Here in Europe, we operate the Stockholm Stock Exchange, the Helsinki Stock Exchange, the Copenhagen Stock Exchange, many of the Baltic exchanges, and Iceland. We don't operate Oslo so far. So we're trying to welcome them to the family, but they haven't accepted so far. In addition to that, we also sell software to approximately 100 exchanges worldwide. So we're one of the biggest suppliers of trading and clearing software in the world, and that's not something that's widely known. It's actually the old OM technology that was the provider of that software. And then in 2007, NASDAQ bought OMX at that time. And the OMX is, the name is a combination of OM and HEX, so the Helsinki Exchange. So that's the background for the names and who we are. I wanted to make the presentation a bit entertaining. So it's not a dry presentation, but please, if you have any questions, I can go into the details of our specific platform, how we're thinking about our platform, and also details around the bigger NFF platform. I have some slides in the end that are from our actually discussion on the prioritization of the platform, how we want to build it for the future. But I'm going to start with a general introduction to sort of how we've been thinking, and also to why we're thinking this way, and why we think that this is a natural continuation of how you want to build your data platform, preparing for, say, the next 20 years or something like that. The scope for NFF is really 10 years, but we wanted to have a slightly longer horizon. So just stepping really, really way back, looking on humans as a race, we're kind of strange in the way that we actually get a life, but we get no purpose. We have no real meaning with our life. We don't know what to fill it with. But if you start looking at human, and from this perspective, looking at human endeavors, what is constant in these endeavors? Well, it is trying to make more with less. That's sort of the key, and I think to some degree also classifying humans against, for instance, other primates, that's the defining characteristic, that we actually invent tools. I've understood that other animals actually do use tools as well, but about 2.5 million years ago, we started creating these small rudimentary tools out of stone, started sharpening stones and using them as knives and axes. And then using that technology, we started making fire. And using that technology, we could start melting stones. And using that insight, we could start making tools out of metal. And we had bronze, and we had iron. And every step, when we learned something new, we became more powerful. We could do more with the limited and the scarce resources that we had. Stepping forward a few thousand years, I think there are 3 categories of innovations that are really, really important, and especially important for the background, why we're choosing our data platform strategy for the next 20 years, the way that we are. And those 3 innovations are how we tame energy. That's probably the first one. So the fact that we discovered fire, the fact that we were able to domesticate horses, and then started experimenting with steam, and then combustion engines, and then atomic engines. And the next one is the fact that we are able to write down information. We're able to note data. We can create written language. We can keep track of measures, and that essentially becomes data. And the third part is probably philosophy and science and mathematics. When you have that, you can actually start thinking about worlds that currently do not exist. You can start thinking about the imaginable, but that doesn't exist here in the world so far. So what we've actually created based on these 3 innovations is, for instance, cars and planes. We can move anywhere in the world, but we also have computers, and computers can automate calculations. So cars automate the transportation of us physically, and computers can automate calculations for us. We also have, well, the written word. We have old mathematical texts that we can read, and we can leverage the philosophies of the old Greeks today and realize that, yeah, we knew that already a few thousand years ago. Some of the most profound, deep thoughts that we're currently being challenged by. And also the ability to realize impossibilities, like going to the moon, creating graphene and impossible materials, and looking at objects that are smaller than the size of light waves. It's really fantastic what we can do if you start thinking about those 3 innovations independently. But if you combine these 3, then we get what people are starting to fear right now. We're getting something that's called AI, artificial intelligence. We're starting to be able to reproduce ourselves using automatic computations, data from the real world, and mathematics. And that's really, really powerful when you start thinking about that. So today we are extremely powerful as a race. And if you start looking at the journey that we've had, it's always trying to build upon these innovations that we've had. So today, people are fearing AI, but what they're actually fearing is general intelligence, artificial general intelligence. And if you know anything about artificial general intelligence, you will know that we're pretty far away from general intelligence so far. It's specific intelligence where we are, or weak AI, as it's also known. So this is the level of AI that we're currently looking at. Much, much more nice. And I think the important thing to realize when it comes to AI is it's not so strange It's not really a spooky thing. It's not something that's really, really dangerous or what have you. It's really about automation. It's really about, if computations were about automating, computers were about automating computations, AI is about automating decisions. So it's one step higher than computations. It's using the data, it's using computation, and it's using some mathematics. And combining these three, you can actually start automating some of the work that we humans traditionally have been doing. And if you probably have, I mean, just listening to someone in P1 or something like that, you've probably heard a lot about AI during the summer. You've probably read a lot about AI and the power that you have. We use it a lot in just our normal analysis, deep nets, reinforcement learning, all of these things. But the idea here is to use an automated AI to actually govern the data platform, to help us govern the data platform. And why is that interesting? Why is that interesting at all? NASDAQ, if we take a step back and look at the bigger NFF data platform, Adina, our CEO, has a mission for the company, a new vision of where she wants to position the company. And traditionally, we've operated exchanges, and we've sold software to these exchanges. So I told you that we currently have around 100 exchanges as customers around the globe. So it's a lot of exchanges. But what is an exchange? And what is actually trading? Well, trading is the exchange of one asset for another. The exchange of stocks for cash, for instance, or an agreement to do that in the future. So I could agree with someone to exchange these two assets in 2 months or something like that. And that's actually really, really general. If you go into a shop, you do that. You exchange your money for some kind of asset. And that concept in the vision is called markets everywhere, or the markets economy. So the idea is to use a version of our trading technology for everyone. So for instance, what if you want to buy a movie ticket? But you only want to buy that if you have a date and if it's raining. Otherwise, you want to go to the zoo. Imagine that you could actually buy that, so you don't have to buy both tickets. Now, it's not a big innovation. It's not a big thing. You could buy probably both tickets, but it would be better if you could buy this option to get whichever ticket that you wanted, and know that you actually have it. So you have something to do on your date. And that's the idea. Creating a platform where anyone can create any tradable asset. It doesn't matter what it is. Any kind of tradable asset, and anyone can do it. So currently, we have a company that's selling trading software to 100 companies around the world. The vision is that we're going to have a company selling trading services to potentially 200 million customers around the world. And this guy has an idea. He wants to create an exchange for some kind of tradable asset. And our mission is to create a platform where any individual can not only test our software once or twice and discover that, well, this was probably not a good idea. It has to be easy enough for him to start small and scale. And when you start thinking about the massive volume of people, you start realizing that either we need loads of people to assist us in managing this platform, or we need to start thinking about how to do more with less. We have to figure out a new innovation. And how do we do this? Well, this is essentially the requirements that we have for our long-term vision of the data platform. We believe that our new data platform will build upon a few pillars. Automation is a must. Any feature that is not possible to automate, we don't expect that feature to be used at all. It's going to take too much time. So it has to have self-service or automation or AI built into it somehow. Otherwise, it won't be used. And I bet you probably have had the same issue. There's a nice feature in the data platform that you want to use. No one knows how to install it. You're not able to test it. And that's where, at least from my perspective, AWS and those kind of service providers are really good today, because you can actually test the software. But this is about a software that we're developing and just small add-on features. We want to test this thing. The other thing is that we need the platform to be agile and nimble and able to modify itself based on our requirements. And it also needs to be open, because it's not just going to be used by us. It's going to be used by our customers as well. We want to be able to extend the data to our members. We want them to see their data in their own tools. So it needs to build on these three pillars. But we also have specific requirements on the platform. And those are that the data has to be pervasive, and analytics has to be pervasive as well. It has to be everywhere in the platform. The data has to be consistent, credible, and we have to be able to interoperate the data. So it needs to sort of commingle with other data sources as well. So we can easily infuse index data, for instance. But also other data that one of these 200 million customers want to use. And naturally, elasticity and time to market. This customer is not willing to wait 3 months to have something installed. Potentially he's willing to wait a month. Probably not. But an hour, a few minutes. The expectation is something like, a minute. And then it has to work independently of what he's requesting. The interesting thing with the requirements and the pillars are that they build on each other. So credibility, consistency, and interoperability is actually very much about having an open platform that's able to, that we can automate. Elasticity and time to market is mostly about automation and agility of the data platform. And having the data pervasive and the analytics pervasive is a lot about making the data open and accessible and easy to change depending on your requirements. And this is essentially the whole chain that we're thinking of with regards to the different areas of the platform that we want to offer. There needs to be an information portal that makes data easily accessible to any analytics consumer. It needs to be able to integrate with third-party software. But there you'll just have sort of predefined calculations, predefined metrics, turnover, things like that. Pretty easy. The next step is the analytics workbench, where you can dig into the numbers and start working more with it. Self-service analytics or citizen data science platforms. You can create your own data marts and integrate. Sorry, which one? There. Integrate with ad hoc files as well. So if you have some kind of data set that you need to integrate with on your own. The next area is the data science lab, where you do churn analytics and that kind of analysis. You start probing the data much, much deeper, trying to understand customer behavior, all of that information. And then we have the automation hub, where anything that you've created in the data science lab is easily automated and then sent out on one of these buses so that's available on the enterprise data warehouse, in one of the data marts, etc. So this is sort of the platform, the different areas that we're trying to set up in this platform. And takeaways. What are the key takeaways that I think is important from the perspective that we have on the data platform? Well, I think for us, the world is constantly going to change. And people will always want to do more with less. We need to challenge what you can do in trading. We need to challenge what you can create with a data platform and how agile you can be with these tools. Computers, they automated calculations, and AI is automating decisions. So instead of using something like the Mechanical Turk, Amazon's Mechanical Turk, for our data platform, we're looking to automate decisions. We're looking to automate the whole platform using robotics or AI, whatever, but creating a platform that actually delivers on this vision in some undetermined future. And decide on a vision for your company that you think is interesting, something that probably correlates with this. I think this is going to be the norm if you look 10 to 20 years out into the future. And don't consider too much. I mean, manual work is fine. I mean, that's fine with manual work because you're just going to automate it. And when you start thinking about it that way, I think you have something that potentially can become a blockbuster, something that can be a game changer in your industry as well. So that's my presentation. Any questions? Does it seem reasonable? How many believe that we can do this? How many believe that we're too modest? No, I think it's, if you start thinking about the future and start thinking about what customers will request. I mean, it's the vision is originally from Adina. The markets actually do exist everywhere. And if we want to be able to compete on that scale, then what is it that you need to change? What is it that you need to change to make the vision work? And I think it can work. This can work because we have the technology that can automate decisions currently. And it's just about putting that into practice. Thank you.